Subscribe Nightmare Network and press the bell icon to listen horror and scary stories regularly.
When we were little, Aunt Maggie used to take care of things when our parents went away for the weekend. Unmarried and full of life, Aunt Maggie was a free spirit who enjoyed hosting us. We all got together in the living room one Friday night to watch a movie while our parents were out of town. It was a violent rainstorm that night. There was Aunt Maggie, my younger brother, and my two sisters. I have vague memories of several things from that night, but I do recall bits and pieces of it. I remember that there was a momentary flickering of the lights, which made us halt the film and restart the DVD player. Soon after, Aunt Maggie fell asleep, so we let her rest and carried on with our viewing. My younger brother hurried to the restroom as we were getting to the point when the heroine was investigating the haunted house. He stormed back into the room a few moments later, yelling for us to come look at something outdoors. We followed him curiously to the back door, where we saw new tracks in the damp dirt. They disappeared into the yard after leading to a window from the rear entrance. A shiver ran down our spines, as my brother believed he heard the creaking of the rear door. Our oldest sister went back inside, but the rest of us chose to follow the footsteps out of curiosity. I told my sister that we wouldn't wander too far and that it would be an adventure, despite her objections. We covered up and headed out into the stormy night, while she went back to the living room to finish the movie. The footsteps become more distinct as we waded through the muck, leading us more into the shadows. We eventually came to an abandoned cottage tucked away in the forest. In the faint moonlight, it loomed menacingly, with no indications of life coming from within. The footsteps went to the front door, but we were hesitant to go in. Rather, we quietly made our way to an adjacent window and looked in. All that was visible to us were shadows since the darkness was so thick. Abruptly, we detected odd sounds coming from the cabin, loud thumps followed by scratching noises. With a yell of surprise, my brother pointed to another window, where a silhouette momentarily emerged. Though it was too dark to see any features, the sight chilled our spines. The front door exploded open before we could respond, sending us running to get away while screaming in fear. We ran into the night, returning home safely by following the footsteps. The memory of that unsettling experience followed us for years, even though we weren't followed. We returned to the woods the following day to see whether the cabin had disappeared, but it was nowhere to be found. We're still curious about what was within those eerie woods and what happened to the unidentified cottage. On a certain morning, I was notified by my supervisor by text message that I would be off work for the day. This was a pleasant and unexpected surprise for me, because it meant that I would have the entire day to myself. Due to the fact that my wife was working and the children were in school, I was free to do whatever I liked. To add insult to injury, I was receiving a paycheck, so taking the day off did not result in any financial loss for me. You may compare it to a paid vacation. My day began with the same routine that I always do, which consists of taking a shower and eating breakfast. However, this time, I took my time and enjoyed the minutes of leisure that I had. In the mornings, when I was typically in a hurry, it was a rare treat to be able to take it easy and appreciate the serenity. While I was sitting down in front of the television with a grin on my face, I was thinking about how I would spend the rest of the day. Although I enjoyed spending the day at home, I couldn't help but feel the want to get out and discover new things. Knowing I may quickly get bored, I decided to go hiking at a local route I had researched online. Although I was considering taking my dog Charlie with me on the trek, I ultimately decided to undertake it alone, since I thought it would be too difficult for someone like me who was just starting out. After notifying my wife of my plans, I packed extra supplies just in case and started off for the trail. The travel took around half an hour, and upon arrival, I felt a sensation of excitement in addition to anxiety. Parking my car, I grabbed my bag and proceeded on the route. The peaceful beauty of the surroundings attracted me, and I loved every second of my outdoor trip. About 20 minutes into my trek, I plugged in my headphones to enjoy some music. However, my happiness was short-lived when my phone's signal dropped to 1 bar. Moments later, I was frightened by a deer dashing across the trail, sending my heart pounding. As I recovered from the surprise, I observed someone sitting close, wearing a scary mask and carrying what seemed to be an axe. Sensing danger, I tried to leave, but the stranger continued to approach, waving the weapon menacingly. Panic increasing, I began into a run, wanting to escape. The stranger chased me, and in a moment of desperation, threw the axe at me. It struck my ankle, causing enormous pain, but I managed to keep running, pushed by adrenaline. With pure determination, I beat my pursuer, finally losing him in the distance. Though hurt, I pressed on, encouraged by the prospect of reconnecting with my family. Finally reaching my car, I exhaled a sigh of relief, but the fear of the encounter stayed. As I drove away, I couldn't escape the sense of being watched, afflicted by the terrifying meeting in the bush. I report the whole story to the police station, but I knew the masked attacker still as free, a dangerous figure hiding in the shadows. This is by far the most terrifying experience I've ever had, and the memory of it still sends shivers down my spine. It happened during one summer when I came home from university, eager to reconnect with the familiar landscapes of my youth. Little did I know that my peaceful memories would soon be overwhelmed by sheer terror. Our home was set just outside a small town, surrounded by dense woods and a serene man-made lake. The charm of the outdoors called to me, drawing me towards the peaceful paths and winding streams that I had explored countless times as a child. One such road, a grassy walk going to the river, held a special place in my heart. It wandered through the forest, making its way past massive trees and tinkling brooks until it reached the placid waters of the river. On one disastrous day, I set out on that familiar road, eager to lose myself in the natural beauty of the forest. Little did I know that this journey would take a scary turn, throwing me into a nightmare beyond my dreams. As I walked along the stream, the gentle sound of leaves and the faraway call of birds eased me into a false sense of security. But then, breaking through the peaceful music of nature, came the clear sound of a bell ringing in the distance. At first, I brushed it off as the distant tinkling of a lost hunting dog, but as the sound got stronger, I feel uneasy. It was as though the bell was calling me, leading me towards some unknown danger hiding in darkness. I followed the sound, my heart beating in my chest with each step. But what I found at the source of the sound was beyond anything I could have imagined. There, lying in the water, was the chopped body of a badger, its lifeless eyes looking into nothingness. The sight filled me with a sense of fear, unlike anything I had ever experienced before. It was as though I had come upon the scene of some unthinkable horror, a bizarre picture of death and decay hidden deep within the heart of the forest. But the horror was far from over. 1 week later, as I went into the forest once again, I found myself caught in a web of terror that threatened to swallow me whole. As I walked through the forest, the rain lashing against my skin like cold blades, I came upon the broken parts of the badger, its head hung up like some grotesque prize. The sight filled me with a deep fear, an awful sense of horror that threatened to overwhelm me. It was as though the forest itself had become a hunting ground for some unknown predator, a malicious force that waited in the shadows, waiting to strike. With each step, the sound of the bell grew louder, booming through the forest like a death knell. I knew then that I was not alone, that some unknown force was watching me from the shadows, waiting to pounce. In a panic, I called out for help, my words blocked out by the constant pounding of the rain. But as I turned to run away, I saw him, a tall figure covered in darkness, his eyes burning with a malicious gleam. I ran as though my life depended on it, my heart beating in my chest with each step. But no matter how fast I ran, the sound of the bell followed me, a haunting memory of the horrors that hid in the depths of the forest. In the end, it was only the sound of my father's words that saved me, pulling me back from the edge of chaos and bringing me to safety. But the memory of that fateful day still haunts me, a warning of the darkness that dwells within the very core of the forest, ready to claim its next victim.